Dolphins Today is presented by Manscaped. If you go to manscaped.com and use promo code Dolphins, you can get 20% off plus free shipping on the performance package and all available products. Appreciate you all joining us here on Dolphins Today. We're going to get into a preview talking about this game on Saturday night against the Philadelphia Eagles. But first, I want to know, who do you got? You got the Fins or you got the Eagles? Type MIA for the Dolphins or type PHI for the Eagles. And I want you guys to go spam Fins Up on the last Eagles Now video. We're going to post the link to that video in the description, also in the comments. Go spam Fins Up on the last Eagles Now video. We're trying to win a competition with my guy Chase Sr. and Eagles Now. Let's get into these storylines. Is Tua going to play? And we've talked about that the last 3 weeks. I think the better question at this point might be, is anybody going to play? Because this game, as we're recording this video on Thursday, Dolphins Live, is in danger of not happening because of a stomach bug outbreak. Now, we did see Tua play 2 drives in the last preseason game after not playing against the Bucs. I would expect him to play on Saturday, another drive or 2, but he was under heavy duress. He looked pretty good, all things considered, on last Saturday. But I want to know what y'all think. Do you want Tua to play? Type P for play or type B for bench. Down in the comments section, go down, chime in. Do you want Tua Tagovailoa to play on Saturday? Let's get into this next one as well. Skylar against Teddy Bridgewater. That is what I'm really, really looking forward to on Saturday. Teddy did not play in the first preseason game. He played in the second preseason game and struggled, while Skylar, for the second straight game, balled out. Here's what he's done in the preseason. 29 of 38, including 9 of 10 against the Raiders. 347 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He has looked like a poised veteran. This guy's a 7th-round pick, a rookie, and he's looking like an absolute stud out there. Teddy Bridgewater, not so much. Teddy kind of struggled. I mean, in his defense, the offensive line didn't really help him out, but he just completed half of his passes for 119 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But all of a sudden, there's some pressure on Teddy. And I understand that he signed a 1-year deal up to $10 million with the Fins, and he's competing against a 7th-round pick. And Teddy Bridgewater's been a starter most of his career. But there's some pressure on Teddy. I mean, if Skylar goes out and balls again and Teddy struggles, Teddy definitely becomes a trade candidate if he isn't already. That's something to watch. I'm excited to see who has the better game between those two on Saturday night. Really excited to see Skylar again. They better keep Skylar on the 53-man roster. Let's talk about this, the Dolphins receivers against the Eagles, because yesterday in the joint practice, the Dolphins absolutely dominated Eagles defensive backs. Everything you read on social media, all of the videos you watched, it was Tyreek, it was said, it was everyone really torching the Eagles secondary, a pretty good secondary at that. And I'm excited to see Eric Ezukanma go up against a pretty solid Eagles defense, because after a quiet first preseason game, he did this in his second NFL game. 9 targets, 6 receptions, over 100 yards. He is going to be a heck of a player. I'm really excited to see Easy E on Saturday against the Eagles. I'm excited to introduce you to the Manscaped Performance Package, if you don't know about it, because it is fantastic. You're going to get the Lawnmower 4.0, which is a Bush's worst nightmare. And look, I know you all have fantasy football drafts coming out. You need to be worried about your snake, not your snake draft. You can do that at manscaped.com. Promo code Dolphins. It's going to come with the boxers. It's going to come with some ball deodorant as well. The perfect package, ball toner, $87 at manscaped.com using promo code Dolphins. You can get 20% off plus free shipping. That link, that promo code, going to be in the comments and the description of this video. Let's talk about the offensive line. Offensive line sucks. I mean, just to be blunt, the offensive line looked terrible. I had to watch Larnell Coleman start a National Football League game last week. Larnell Coleman started the game and was protecting Tua. That scares the bejesus out of me, the thought of that happening again. The offensive line has to improve. You have to see improvement. Think about this for a second. We're going to get to this in a second, but I really only think there's one backup offensive lineman. That's Michael Dieter. That's a lock to make this football team right now. That tells you a lot about the lack of depth on this football team. The offensive line has to improve. because Tua Tagovailoa last year dealt with the worst offensive line in all football, not an exaggeration, literally ranked 32 out of 32 teams by PFF. They have to get better. They have to show improvement. Or otherwise, Chris Greer, you got to pick up the phone and bring Jake Lucina, Darrell Williams, whoever to Miami. You got to do something about this offensive line. But I'm excited to see how this Philadelphia Eagles defensive line matches up with our offensive line in Miami. And the last part of the show is going to take a while, so bear with me. But we're going to do some roster battles. I'm going to go position by position, tell you who's a lock to make the team and who is fighting for their roster lives on Saturday night against the Eagles. Because as Mike McDaniel said the other day, this is the most important game of a lot of these guys' careers. A lot of these guys on the roster bubble trying to make this football team. The roster on Tuesday goes from 80 to 53. A lot of guys that have to prove themselves against Philadelphia. So the quarterbacks, in my opinion, all three of them are locks at this point. Skylar Thompson's going to be QB3. Teddy will be the backup. Tua, the starting quarterback. The running back battle, a little bit more intriguing right now. So I think 4 running backs are going to make this football team, which means you have one spot between 4 players. Here are the locks right now. Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Sony Michel, going to make this football team. No question about that. All new running backs, all of those guys are going to make this football team. Lock that in. They're going to make the team. Here's who's on the bubble. So you have 4 guys vying for probably one spot. Myles Gaskin, Salvon Ahmed, Zaquandre White, Jared Dokes. That is not the official depth chart. That's just my opinion in terms of who's who. RB4, RB5, RB6, RB7. So I think Gaskin's going to make the team. He's the most proven player out of those 4. I would not be surprised if he gets traded. We've heard him involved in trade rumors. So stay tuned because let's say on Sunday or Monday, as the clock is ticking to finalize the 53-man, Myles Gaskin might get traded. If he does, I think Salvon Ahmed makes the team, but watch out for Dr. White, as they call him, because Zaquandre's very talented. He had a pretty good game catching that touchdown pass from Sky on Saturday against the Raiders, but I would say Myles Gaskin makes this football team. Moving on to the wide receiver battle. I think you have 1 to 2 available spots between 4 players. So first, let's take a look at the locks here. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Cedric Wilson, Eric Ezukanma, Trent Sherfield are all locks. To be honest, I was not expecting Trent Sherfield to be a lock when training camp started, but based on what he's done at camp, based on his relationship with Mike McDaniel, he played for him in San Francisco, I think Sherf is a safe bet at this point to make this team. I think that he is going to make the team as the 5th wide receiver. I think that 6 wide receivers get carried. Lynn Bowden probably wins the final spot. So you see Lynn Bowden is the wide receiver 6 going up against Preston Williams, River Craycraft, Braylon Sanders. Only one of those guys is probably going to make the team. I think Lynn Bowden deserves to be the one guy. If there's 2 guys, I hope Craycraft gets kept as well. But Lynn Bowden Jr., I think, is going to make this football team. Moving on to the offensive line. 3 to 4 spots between 7 players. So we'll go over the locks, and then we'll go over who's on the bubble. Here are the locks. Only 6 offensive linemen right now are safe bets to make this football team. Teron Armstead, Liam Eichenberg, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Austin Jackson. That's your starting 5. Michael Dieter is the only backup right now that is a lock to make this football team, which says a lot, and I mean a lot, about the lack of depth on this offensive line. Here's who's on the bubble. Larnell Coleman, goodness gracious, Greg Little, Adam Pankey, Kellen Deesh, Robert Jones, Blaze Andrews, Solomon Kinley, and then that's the Dolphins roster outlook in terms of offensive line. So there's going to be maybe 3 guys that make it. I expect it, unfortunately, to be Larnell Coleman, Solomon Kinley, Robert Jones. Kinley's looked very good. He deserves to make this team as a backup guard, but Kellen Deesh should make the team. I want him to make the team, but he just hasn't gotten that many reps in preseason games, which makes me concerned about his status. Let's move on to the defensive line now, where you see 1 to 2 spots available between 5 players. So that's what we're looking at in terms of the defensive line. Here are the locks there. Emmanuel Ogbah, obviously. Raekwon Davis, Christian Wilkins, Zach Sealer. And then pay close attention. Oh, wrong way. Porter Gustin is a lock to make this football team. Was not expecting that either at the start of training camp. But I really like Porter. He's looked very good. He deserves to make the team. Here's who's on the bubble. John Jenkins, Benito Jones, Owen Carney, Ben Still, a UDFA out of Nebraska, Niles Scott. Those are the guys vying for maybe the final spot. I think it's Jones or Jenkins to get to the final nod because of their experience, but watch out for Ben Still because Ben Still was one of the big winners of that second preseason game against the Raiders. He looks very good. Does not look like a UDFA. He looks like a draft pick. So watch out for Still because if he looks just as good on Saturday against Vegas as he did last week, I should say on Saturday against Philadelphia, as he did last week against Vegas, he might be in my final roster projection video early next week. Now let's move on to the linebackers because I think we're looking at 1 to 2 spots available between 6 players. So here is who is on the bubble there. Brennan Scarlett, Sam Aguavin, Cameron Good, Calvin Munson, Darius Hodge. I think that maybe 1 or 2 of those guys make the team. Here are the locks in terms of the linebackers. So Jalen Phillips, Alandon Roberts, Jerome Baker, Melvin Ingram, AVG, who might not play week 1 because he had his appendix removed. Channing Tindall, rookie 3rd-round pick, Duke Riley. Those are the 7 locks to make this football team. I'm going to change my prediction here. I think Cameron Good is going to get the final nod. 7th-round pick out of Cal. He's looked very good, no pun intended, in camp, in preseason games. Brennan Scarlett's been out with an injury. Sam Aguavin, I don't think is going to make this team anymore. So Cameron Good, certainly a name to watch. Who could get the final spot amongst the linebackers. Moving on to the corners, because I think we're seeing 1 to 2 spots available between 4 players. Here are the locks. Only 4 locks right now. They're probably going to carry 5 or 6 corners. X, Jones, who still isn't activated from the PUP list, and if he's still on the PUP list come next Tuesday, I believe he has to miss the first 4 games of the season. Nick Needham, Keon Crossan. Those are the locks. Crossan has looked great. He is a lock. Here's who's on the bubble. Former first-round pick Noah Igbenogany. UDFA out of A&M Commerce, Kader Kohu, D'Angelo Ross, Elijah Hamilton. Those are on the bubble. I think what you're seeing is the final spot coming down between a former first-round pick and a UDFA from a Division II school. Pretty wild stuff. Unfortunately, I think Igbo makes it because he's a former first-round pick, and I know that shouldn't matter, but let's be honest, it does. I know the $4.5 million dead cap hit shouldn't matter, but let's be honest, it does. That's something to keep in mind. I just hope they find a way to keep Kader Kohu. And if Igbo makes it over Kohu, I'm going to be very mad at this front office because Igbo is not a good player. He's a bust. They have to move on, take on that dead cap. They have plenty of cap, by the way. Take on the dead cap and just admit that, move on. Kohu has looked far better than him in camp. He's looked far better in the preseason. You keep Kader Kohu. You move on from Igbenogany. But if you're asking for my prediction, I think Igbo makes it over Kohu, unfortunately. Moving on to the rest of the defensive backs. That'd be the safeties position. 1 spot likely available between 4 players that are vying for one of the final roster spots on this team. Let's take a look at the locks in terms of the safety position. Javon Holland, Brandon Jones, Eric Rowe are the 3 locks to make this football team. All very easy locks. Final spot is coming down between these folks. Clayton Fedulum, a special teams guy. Verone McKinley III, Quincy Wilson, Elijah Campbell. I think realistically it's coming down between Fedulum and McKinley III, and I think McKinley III is the one that makes this football team. And I understand he's a UDFA. He had no business being a UDFA, arguably the best UDFA out there. Verone McKinley's the real deal. He's looked very good in camp this week, looked good in preseason games. I really like Verone. I hope he makes the team. Now let me know, what did I get wrong? Who do you think is going to make the team that I don't think is going to make it, or vice versa? Go down in the comment section. Let me know what I got wrong.